Welcome to Footwork.
All right, so today we are joined by some very special guests. Dennis Crowley, who is the co-founder of Dodgeball, co-founder and executive chairman of FOURSQUARE, and the founder and chairman of Stockade. And then we also have Dan Hoffay, who is the technical director of Stockade. I mean, you guys started Kingston Stockade. You guys started a club. So we have to first start off with, how did the idea come about?
I was playing five-a-side games in, just pickup leagues in New York. And then one day after one of our games, had beers with my buddies, and we are thinking, how do we take our club and actually get it to the point where it would play against the Red Bull someday? And it was just like a thought exercise, right? What have to happen for us to like qualify for the US Open Cup so we could then do that, right? And that introduced me to clubs like Chattanooga and Detroit, who were in the MPSL. And as I started doing some research on those clubs, I was like, holy cow, these things are amazing. And then you kind of have this realization that like, these haven't been here for thousands of years. Someone just made these clubs. They just decided to invent them. And I kind of had a similar moment thinking, we should make one of these. Like, this would be an awesome thing to make. And so one of the very first things that I did, because like I knew people in the Hudson Valley, but I wasn't connected in any way to anything soccer related, is I went on Twitter and I found the American Outlaws supporters group in the Hudson Valley. And I remember I was in San Francisco for work at the time, and I think I had one too many beers one night, and I just sent a DM on Twitter to AO Hudson Valley. And I was like, I don't know who runs the account, but hello, what do you think about trying to do a soccer team in the Hudson Valley? Would people go? Would people care? Would people play? We kind of had this like awkward meet and greet taco dinner somewhere. And I don't remember where it was. And then from there, we just kind of started talking about it. And I want to say it came together fast, but things started getting real quick.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Wow. So it's amazing to hear that this all was just born from a sliding in the DMs.
For real.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah. He's like looking him up and he's like, holy crap, this guy's pretty big time. Like, what is he doing? So we started exchanging messages, and we went out to dinner one night. It was super awkward the first time, like Dennis said, but
it was like a horseshoe shaped booth, which is what makes it weird. Like anytime when someone wants to get out, like everyone has
it's the worst. Yeah. 10 people have to get out. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if they know what they're doing. But like, let's just try.
Figure it out.
Just try it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go.
Just rolled with it. Yeah.
It really does sound like the beginning of any true, great love story. It's just it has really all the factions there. What were some of like the initial hurdles and some of the unforeseen challenges that you guys saw?
I remember naively making a list, being like, well, there's probably like 6 things we got to do. Make some kits, get a stadium, and make some tickets, right? That's it. You start unpacking it. Actually, there's like 1,500 things to do. And, like one of I think the big moments for the club and kind of like some of the stuff we stand for was like, I went on Google being like, okay, how do you start a soccer team from scratch? And there was nothing. And nothing under Google results. And we kind of made this decision, in addition to making the club, like, let's try to write about it as we do it to make it easier for the next person that comes along. Right?
Yeah.
And that has turned out to have been very influential. I've talked to hundreds of clubs over the last 5 years. I talked to people all over the world. I talked to a club, it was like some 20-something kid trying to start a club like an hour outside of Rome, and I was like, I don't know anything about the landscape over there in terms of soccer fans and villages and stuff, but I can walk you through the numbers. And
Vatican City FC.
Is that?
No.
Oh man, I wish I was gonna look up their merch right there away.
Now.
In a sense, right? So like FOURSQUARE is 12 years old, right? I think it's 12, almost like this week is our 12th year anniversary.
Oh wow.
And like we started off just making like one consumer app, and people would check into places and games and city guides and stuff like that. And we got, 50, 60 million people using it, which is a pretty good chunk. Because Foursquare now is a totally different company than it was when we started. Like when we started, it was a consumer app, and it was about, having this thing that brought people together. Like Foursquare, the app, was about like getting people together to have good times at bars and restaurants and physical spaces. Like how do you use technology to bring people together? And that's kind of what Stockade is. Like Stockade is just like, there's guys running around on the field scoring goals, and we're playing in this league, right? But it's like you're bringing the community together. You're bringing 1,000 people from the community that may not know each other, right? Bringing them together to like cheer on the squad, cheer on the community, and that's really what it is. And so when I talk to other entrepreneurs outside of like people doing soccer stuff, we get them to focus. Like, listen, it's not just about the 90 minutes on the field. It's about the like, how do you create an environment where fans want to come, because this is the most fun that they can have in a 2-hour span, right, on the weekend. And
it is too.
They want to bring their family. They want to bring their kids, right? That's like it's just a different way of thinking about it, but it's an important way of thinking about it.
Like, what are some of the things that you think are very important in creating a strong fan base?
I think that the transparency that our club has with the people is a major piece. Like, we're open, we're honest. They know they know that it's real. Like those open and honest conversations that we have with the community really keeps them intertwined into the soul of our team.
Like small clubs that start and they try to feel bigger than they are. Like, oh, we have a front office and a president and such. And I always feel like we take the other approach. Like we go to Keegan's and we sell T-shirts out of a Tupperware container, and they're like, "You're the chairman of the club." I'm like, "Yeah, and I'm also the chief T-shirt folder. That's how this operation is run."
I take both very seriously.
yeah, exactly. I remember just being so distracted by just like, we have a game now. There's people playing. Okay, what's going on? The ref boy. 3 minutes in the game, the ref blows a whistle for something. And the crowd goes wild, and everyone turns around. And they're like, "What?" It's like, "Oh my god!"
When did they get? Yeah,
right. It filled up so quick, you didn't even realize. But at the end of the game, like unexpectedly, just all the kids ran down to the fence, right?
Oh,
and they all wanted autographs, and like nobody expected that. Nobody knew what to do. Jamal, who was the captain, took everyone together and was like, "All right, it's great. Look at this crowd came out to support us. Here's what we're doing. Nobody goes inside until every single kid gets something signed." And, Jamal's like, "Dennis, you got pens?" I'm like, "I have one in my pocket. I have a Sharpie in my car," right? So we had like 3 pens for 800 kids, and we just stayed outside for like an hour. And that is the essence of like what the club is, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we are here to serve the community, inspire the kids, give people a good time, be role models, be something people can aspire to. And parents will stop me and they'll be like, "Thank you so much for bringing this to town. Like all my kids want to do is play soccer now." We went to the coach of Kingston High School, and I was like, "Hey, did you see any noticeable uptick in the number of people that tried out for soccer?" He's like, "Yeah, it was like twice as many."
Wow.
That's a cool data point. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just from personal experience growing up in the Hudson Valley in Monroe, like, I mean, the closest things we had were MLS teams in the city. So like it was there, but it wasn't really tangible, like these kids that can go and see something. Yeah, it's not, first tier, but to them, it's still like, it is. It's what they can see, and then it's what they can strive for. I think that's a very important thing for a kid to have, is some way of looking how to get there. And for most of us, it wasn't there,
We're running these surveys, and people would say, "Yeah, Stockade is my favorite club." I'm like, "It's your favorite what, over like any club in the world?" "Yeah, it's my favorite club because it's the club in my town." And I was like, "Gosh, you never expected that to happen."
Yeah.
And then like a lot of people would argue, like, we have people that travel from all over. We've had people drive like 12 hours to come see a Stockade game. It's like, why did you drive 12 hours? hours, because they're like, why'd you drive 12 hours to come to Dietz? And they're like, I had to see this thing. I keep hearing about it. I had to see it.
Clubs in England, here in Germany too. Like Sean and I play for clubs here where, this club is their favorite club. And it is not, a Bayern Munich. It's not a Manchester United, but it's where they're from. And it's like, it's passed down. And I feel like Stockade could be that same thing where it's just like, it was my father's club, it's my club. And
like having Stockade, you guys have now provided a in-person experience for these young kids to strive for, right? This is a viable path that they can one day maybe play for Stockade.
The word opportunity is really big in the pro rel world, because you guys playing in Germany, bigger clubs are keeping their eye out for you, are keeping their eye out for lower level clubs, because they know those lower level clubs always have the potential to become a bigger level club. You always have the potential to get to a higher level. You always have the potential to bring your players with you to a higher level. So that network of finding players really exists across Europe, across South America. That network doesn't exist in the US, where it's like, okay, we have this really great player named Dylan Williams playing for our team. How do we help Dylan Williams get up, to play in USL2 or USL, and help him progress through the US pyramid?
Right.
There's no network for that. I told Dylan beforehand that, Sean, I was going to call you out on a little quote. I wrote it down.
yes, I love it. Here we go.
You said that you thought of yourself as a business, and that your worth of your business is now more now that you're abroad than if it had been that you stayed and played in the US in the NPSL and USL2 and so on. And to me, that's a problem. That's the essence of the problem in US soccer, that you do not see yourself getting better as a player or getting bigger as a business in playing in US soccer.
Yeah.
How do we change that? How do we make it so that players of your guys' resume can improve, can get seen without having, I played at Wake Forest on my resume. I got selected in the bogus MLS Super Draft. How do we make it so that there's a real pathway for players to be seen? And it's there's no Red Bull scouts coming and watching Stockade games. No. Shout out to the Red Bulls NYCFC. You guys want to come to Dietz Stadium anytime you want. Come check it out.
The U.S. soccer ecosystem doesn't have the right infrastructure to help clubs go from small to big, and it doesn't have the proper financial incentives, right? Just imagine a world in which you could be promoted, right? If you got promoted, you'd go bankrupt because you just don't have enough money to.
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah, the stepping stones.
You dig into the financial infrastructure of a lot of the European systems, and there's revenue shares with broadcast revenue if you go up, so you are getting paid, and there's parachute payments if you go down, so there's a cushion there, and those are long-standing kind of financial mechanisms built to insulate clubs from the shock of going up or going down, but there's nothing like that here.
No.
The leagues they just need to accept the fact that they are a container for teams. Teams come in, teams go out.
Yeah.
Right. The problem, that's how it exists most everywhere in the world. The problem in the US is that the leagues want to compete with each other. Well, I don't want to be D3. I want to be D2. Well, I don't want to be D4. I want to be D4 and D3. I always thought it's like a non-MLS team being dominant in the Open Cup is one of the things that has to happen before the system really starts to change, or people really start to understand, the system could be different.
I think it was 2015, I was at the game. The Cosmos beat NYCFC in the cup.
I was at that game too. Yeah, to advance, not to win, but to advance.
Yes.
You were at that game out in Long Island.
Yeah, at Hofstra. Yeah.
That was the game where I was like, we have to put Stockade together.
Oh my God!
Wow.
I was in the stands.
You were probably sitting next to each other.
Wearing my Cosmos T-shirt, being like, because what happened is, Cosmos powerhouse team in the 70s, kind of fell aside. A private equity group, like investors, came together and said, we're going to buy the brand, we're going to resurrect it, and we're going to make this team come back. we were at that bar in Brooklyn, Angry Wade's, after our own pickup game, having the conversation about the US Open Cup. We went to this game like 3 weeks later. And then, 3 weeks after that, I had stumbled into Dietz Stadium being like, holy cow, this is it. This is the place, And it was those three things like week after week after week.
Right.
It just kind of came together.
We didn't know it, but somehow Sean was involved.
Yes.
You're welcome.
It was a game against the Italians, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, where we go 2 men down, right? In the second half.
I already had chills.
Oh yeah, it was incredible experience.
I got the same thing.
I'm ready.
Wow.
But this is just.
Ay, mira nada más, Joao. Ávila.
I meet so many people in tech and they're like, why are you working on this like small soccer thing? And I'm like, because it makes you feel good. It's just like
Yeah.
most rewarding thing you can spend your time on, and it's just seeing these clips and having this conversation just makes me want to get back on the field.
Here it says pay for play is a phrase used in a variety of situations in which money is exchanged for services or the privilege to engage in certain activities. Like that word privilege stands out really, really explicitly to me because like it's a privilege. And Joe's right when he says that the best players play for free ultimately, but we have to get to that point, and it's not cheap even at a very young age.
Just to switch gears here, that you said that you had a funny story about me being recruited onto Stockade. And I was just wondering, I'm not sure it'll paint me in the best light, but maybe you could share for everyone out there.
Well, it kind of became like this obsession, and we were worried that like Dylan was going to show up and he was going to suck, and we were going to be like, we spent a lot of time on this, so there was a lot of expectation to live up to. A Thursday night before our first tryout, Dylan emails me back. I have it written right here. I'm sorry for the delay. I needed to work out a couple of things so that I could attend this Saturday. I hope the invite is still in place, as I would very much like to attend. Thank you for your time and reaching out. Very professional, very nice.
Very proper.
Just late.
I either text or George, and I'm like, Dylan's coming. He's like, no, he's not. He's too late. I have tryouts set up. He's like, this kid's not coming. So I was like, he was like, tell him he can't come. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to argue with George, but I didn't tell him Dylan couldn't come. Dylan showed up anyway. I told Dylan to come. So we knew we had to get him. We knew we had to get him on. So good thing happens. Some kid didn't show up. No idea who he is, but he didn't show up.
Shout out to that guy,
so there was
man.
Shout out to that guy.
One spot open on a team. So I was like, listen, George, Dylan's coming, and a spot opened on this team, so we're going to put him on this team. He goes, fine, he plays left back. So Dylan hops onto the field playing left back. Like within 3 minutes of him playing, George looks over at us and he's like, he's on the team. Like it took 3 minutes from Thursday night, him not wanting anything to do with this kid, to 3 minutes on the field. He's like, he's on the team. And now Dylan's jersey is right there. That white Trailways jersey up on the top is actually Dylan's jersey. It's really in there because one day it's one day it's going to be in the Stockade offices once we have like legit offices. That's
sick
jersey.
Can you explain for us what your U.S. soccer utopia looks like?
That it would be accessible to everybody. You can that's really the Stockade youth program's mission, is just to create inclusive soccer opportunities for all kids in the Hudson Valley, regardless of their social or economic status in the world. Like that shouldn't matter. That's my utopian, is this this
accessibility.
Soccer is just available to everybody.
I love that. Love it.
Footwork is sponsored by ourselves, but also Kong Fitness and Merchant Designs, baby. Follow us on Instagram at Footwork_podcast. Twitter is at Footwork Podcast. YouTube and Facebook, just check out Footwork Podcast, search it. Email us if you need anything, any questions at footworkpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, Plug, pass. Tell your parents, Amazon delivery guy, mailman, I don't know who, just tell them. Like, subscribe, review, all of it helps. Danke.